Hello children, how are you all? I hope you are happy and healthy and studying also. And we are revising all the chapters whichever we have already learned. Because it is giving you a lot of help for examination, and we are studying together because it is very important for us to revise all the things in the chapter. So as you all know, this chapter was taught to you and it was explained also. But today in the series of revision, we are going to start this chapter once again. This is chapter number 3 in your supplementary reader book, The Pact with the Sun. This is chapter number 3, The Shepherd Treasure. Now, first of all, I would like to say wisdom, honesty, truthfulness, these are the treasure of life of any human being, because money can be spent, but these virtues or quality of human being never be fade. Never be faded. So always remember, when you gain these type of the treasure inside in your heart, so no power will ruin you. So this you always remember. You just start collecting wisdom. Don't collect money, but the wisdom and truthfulness, honesty, these are the, you can say, the precious treasure, and it will give you success. So this story throws a light on the virtues, wisdom, honesty, hard work, truthfulness. So let's start this beautiful story, The Shepherd's Treasure. First of all, I would like to tell the meaning of shepherd. Shepherd, a person who takes care of sheep. Okay, so treasure means, as you all know, this is the collection of precious things or objects, that is called treasure. So this is shepherd's treasure. It means it's a treasure of shepherd. Let's start reading the first paragraph, or we are going to explain also. In the village in Iran, there once lived a shepherd. He was very poor. He did not even have a small cottage of his own. He had never been to school or learned to read and write, for there were very few schools in those days. So here you can see in this story, it is talking about a poor shepherd who lived in a small village, and because there were no any school, no any institution, that is why he was not educated at all. Because of less number of schools during these days or those days, he could never attend any school. So he was uneducated. Now, though poor and uneducated, the shepherd was very wise. He understood people's sorrows, troubles, and helped them face their problem with courage and common sense. Many people came to him for advice. Soon he became famous for his wisdom and friendly nature. The king of that country heard about him and thought of meeting him. The virtues, the quality that poor shepherd was having is to understand to others' feeling, to respect others. That is the wonderful quality this poor shepherd was having. In spite of his poverty and illiteracy, the shepherd was very wise. He was full of wisdom. He was able to understand people's problems, people's feelings, people's emotions. And he used to solve the problems of the people, those who are living nearby. So that was his great quality, or you can say the virtue of that particular poor shepherd boy. Now, people used to visit him to find suggestions and solutions because he was full of wisdom. He could solve the problem in a minute. So, people used to visit him. Because of his ability, he became popular. His fame and his virtues spread all over the city, all over the town. And the king who was there, he was heard about his quality. And he wanted to visit this shepherd because his wisdom inspired him. He heard a lot of parables about this common shepherd. Disguised as a shepherd and riding on a mule, one day the king came to the cave where the wise shepherd lived. As soon as the shepherd saw the traveler coming towards the cave, he rose to welcome him. He took the tired traveler inside the cave, gave him water to drink, and cheer of his own maigre meal. The king rested for the night in the cave and was greatly impressed by the shepherd's hospitality and wise conversation. Now here, disguised means an appearance that hides the actual form. Because he was a king, but he disguised himself in a very simple person. Mule means an offspring of a male ass and a female horse. Maigre means inadequate, quite less in amount. It means very less food. Hospitality, act of being friendly and warm reception. That is called hospitality. If we are welcoming someone with a very warm heart or warm attitude, that is called hospitality. And taking care of your guest is also called hospitality. Now, dressed as a shepherd and hiding his true identity, the king reached the shepherd's cave. On a mule. The moment the shepherd noticed him coming to his cave, he got up to greet him. Somehow, the shepherd understood that he was not a common person. He was a king. So, he greeted. He brought the traveler inside his cave and gave him water and food. The king took rest and stayed with him. For the night in the cave, the king was impressed by his friendly, warm reception and words of wisdom, because he shared many thoughts with that disguised king. And that time, the king recognized that person was an intelligent boy. It's not a simple shepherd. So, they have shared their views with each other. Maybe king has had given some problem to that shepherd, and shepherd maybe he solved. So that is why the king was impressed, totally totally impressed. Now we are moving to the next paragraph. Though still tired, the king decided to depart the next morning. He said, "Many thanks for your kindness to poor traveler. I have a long way to go. Permit me to leave." Looking straight into the eyes of his guest, the shepherd replied, "Thank you, Your Majesty, for paying me the compliment of a visit." Now here, though he was poor, though he hasn't have anything, but he had a power of wisdom. That time he understood the king was in disguise. He was not a simple king. He was not a simple person. He was a king. That is why he said, "Your Majesty, Your Honor." It means he greeted. He had already given respect that traveler. Now he said, though the king was full feeling tired, yet he decided to leave for the place. The very next morning, he expressed his gratitude to the poor shepherd for warm and kind welcome. He sought his permission to leave the place. The king was also very humble, very modest. That is why he asked the permission of that poor shepherd, showing his modesty. He was so humble. The king was so humble. That time, the modesty of king inspired this boy, shepherd boy. And the shepherd boy told that time, "Your Majesty, you are always welcome." And when he saw straight in the eye of the king, then he told, "Your Majesty, you can leave." So, now we are moving to the next paragraph. The king was astonished as well as pleased. Astonished means amazed, surprised. He is indeed very wise. Now the king realized, after the discussion and after the recognition of himself, he realized that this is not a common shepherd. He's having a lot of wisdom. He thought to himself, "I need people like him to work for me." And the king appointed this humble shepherd the governor of the small district. Although he rose to power and dignity, the shepherd remained as humble as ever. People loved and honored him for his wisdom, sympathy, and goodness. He was kind and just to one and all. His fame as a fair and wise governor soon spread throughout the country. Now here you can see the king was wondering and was full of joy to hear his word. He thought that the shepherd was actually very wise. The people like him were the need of the king. He knew he must work for the king. And the king made him the governor of a small district, because this type of the people always need a respect. That is why his suggestions, because of his policies to solve the problems, the king was impressed, and he appointed this poor shepherd boy as a governor in his country. So now we are moving to the next paragraph. Now the governor of other provinces grew terribly jealous of him and began to talk to the king against him. They said, "He is very dishonest and keeps for himself part of the money that he collects as tax for the people. Why did he always carry with him?" They added, "An iron chest. Perhaps he carried in it the treasure that he had secretly collected." After all, they said mockingly, he was an ordinary shepherd and could behave no better. Now here the jealousy was started. The governors of other provinces, they started jealous because of his famous, or because of his fame, because of his virtue. He was trying his best, but still some people having very bad feeling about him. What was the feeling? That feeling was, they started speaking against him to the king. They started calling him dishonest and blamed him for keeping part of the taxes, whatever the governor is taking, used to take. So that part of the tax, he just keeping inside the old trunk, that iron trunk. So they started spreading this type of the rumor all around the country. So now here you can see, at first the king did not pay attention to these reports, but how long could he ignore these governors and their endless stories about the shepherd? How long he ignored? So he wanted proof because he was a king. How much he ignored that type of the rumors? One thing was certain, the king discovered. The new governor did carry an iron chest with him all the time. Now the king was not paid attention on the worthless rumors. But one thing struck in his mind, the king's mind, that was an iron chest. Why this poor shepherd always carrying an iron chest? Why? So that question was arise in the mind of the king, and he called. So one day the new governor was summoned to the palace. He came riding on the mule or a camel, and to everyone's delight the famous iron chest was there, fastened securely behind him on the camel's back. Now everybody was very curious over there because they wanted to see what was inside the iron chest. And the poor shepherd boy who was governor now, and he was reached at the palace on the camel, and the iron chest was beside him. Thus the king called the governor. Now the king was angry. He thundered, "Why do you always carry that iron chest with you? What does it contain?" Now the king was angry, became angry, and he shouted, he thundered. He said, shouted in anger, and asked him the reason for carrying that iron chest with him. He wanted to ask why he always used to carry that iron chest. The governor smiled. He asked his servant to bring in the chest. How eagerly the people standing around waited for the shepherd to be found out. But how great was their astonishment, and even of the king himself, when the chest was opened. No gold or silver or jewels, but an old blanket was all that came out. Holding it up proudly, the shepherd said, "This, my dear master, is my only treasure. I always carried it with me." The governor smiled and asked his attendant to bring that chest. All the people were very curious to see what it had inside. But when it was opened, they found no precious gold or silver or any jewels inside that trunk. but only an old blanket, and took it out, and proudly he said, "This is my treasure. My lord, this is my treasure. Your Majesty, this is my treasure. I don't have any treasure. I don't have any silver or gold. But this old blanket is my treasure." Now, let's move to the next paragraph. "But why do you carry such an ordinary blanket with you? Surely you are the governor of the district," the king asked, to which the shepherd replied with quiet dignity, "This blanket is my oldest friend. It will still protect me if at any time your Majesty should wish to take away my new cloaks." Now, cloaks means a kind of clothing. But the king was curious to know the reason for carrying such an old blanket, because now he was the governor of the city. Why he used to carry that old blanket? So the shepherd replied, "King, this is not a blanket only. This is a very old friend of mine. And this always ready to help me in any weather, any term of condition." How pleased the king was, and how embarrassed the jealous governor became to hear the wise man reply. Now they knew that the shepherd was indeed the humblest and the wisest men in the land. The king made him the governor of much bigger district that very day. So this is the end of the story. And now in the end, the king felt very happy to hear his word. The governor was ashamed. Governors, those who are surrounded over there, they were ashamed because what they have thought about that just destroyed the plan. And now it was clear to everyone that shepherd was the humblest and the wisest person in the land. Feeling proud of him, the king gave him a bigger district to look after at that very time. Because of his honesty, because of his humbleness, the king appointed him much bigger post than previous. So this is beautiful story. It is about honesty, humbleness, and truthfulness. So let's write some new words which are given in this chapter, because it's having a lot of new words. So we are going to write new words. First of all, first is province. What is the meaning of province? States. States. Now second is mockingly. Mockingly means making fun of. Making fun of. Now next is shepherd. Shepherd, as you all know, this is the person who takes care of sheep. Now fourth is cottage. cottage, a small house. And fifth, disguised. Disguised means an appearance that hides the actual form. So take a screenshot and we are moving forward in the word meanings. Okay? So children, write down fast. Now next is sixth, mule. What is the meaning of mule? Mule, an offspring of a male ass and a female horse. Okay. Now seventh, meager. Meager means inadequate, quite less in amount. Okay. Now number 8, hospitality. Hospitality means act of being friendly, and warm reception. Now number 9, compliment. Compliment is an expression of appreciation. An expression of appreciation. T-I-O-N here. So write it down. And take a screenshot. Now next is astonished. Astonished means wondered. Wondered or amazed or surprised, you can write. Pleased. Pleased means happy. Pleased means happy. And humble. Humble means modest. Not proud but modest. Not proud but modest. Now next word is discovered. Discovered means found. Now summoned. Summoned means called. Now next is delight. Delight means joy. And fastened. Fastened means fixed or tight. Fixed or tight. And few more that I am going to write over here. Ordinary. Ordinary means common. And clogs. Clogs means a kind of clothing. Kind of clothing. That is called clogs. Now next is, first of all you just write down this much or take a screenshot, and after that 2 more word meaning is left. You just write down or take a screenshot. Now after astonished, pleased, humble, discovered, summoned, delight, fastened, ordinary, clogs, I am not erasing this, I am just going to write over here. Now embarrassed. Embarrassed. Embarrassed means feeling of shame. Feeling of shame and awkwardness. And awkwardness. Now next is indeed. Indeed means in reality. In reality. Now I hope I have covered many of word meanings which are given in this text. So complete it, and we will do these question and answer tomorrow because it's having a lot of word meaning, so please complete it. So we will do question answer tomorrow. Okay, so till then, bye bye and take care and revise the chapter once again and learn the word meaning also.